So I don't really talk about my weight very much because most of my life it hasn't really mattered to me. But in the past 6 months, yeah, there's been a few things going on, and I was a little bit naughty and dishonest in my psych journal, so we didn't really talk about some of the issues that have come up. Just the ones that are perhaps more socially like, yeah, it's okay to think like that. But we'll go through some of the things that have been going on here. Legit. To recap, for those of you who don't know, I've been pretty damn underweight for most of my life, and that was especially true when I was on some antidepressants for a good chunk of time that made my appetite even worse than it already was. Like, I used to be pretty picky, but yeah, throw on those medications, and it got to a point where I was on a liquid diet because I couldn't eat. I had to have Sustagen hospital formula because my appetite was that screwed. And my height is 165 centimeters. I got down below 47 kilos, which is pretty bad. That is like proper underweight, not healthy territory. But then, around 2016-ish, that's when I was going through my big, long double depression where I had the melancholic dysthymia combination. So melancholic depression and dysthymia. I made a video about that around that time. But yeah, I finally got on top of my weight, started to improve things when I went on a tricyclic antidepressant, and that actually got me up to about 54 kilos, but then I couldn't stay on it because I got, once we'd weaned me on properly, I got really bad stomach pains and it was just getting worse. So yeah, I had to stop that drug. And then I dropped down back between, the 50 to 52 kilo range and sort of stayed around that pretty much ever since. And yeah, so that, coming off the old meds, trying something new that actually boosted my weight up, that helped me settle into a reasonably healthy range, just in healthy if you go by the old-fashioned BMI. I know BMI is not perfect, but it helps with some indication of whether I'm healthy. It was definitely healthier than being 47 or below 47. Yeah, so since then, I've hovered between that 50 to 52 range. Okay, doing pretty well. But in the past year, last year was a terrible year. And there was a point where I was actually starting to put on weight, and I think it's because I was snacking late at night, and I did start to get more consistently up to 53 and even to 54. And then, yeah, at some point in the last 6 months, I tried on some of my old goth pants, and that's when I noticed that the extra weight was actually having an impact on the size of my body. Now, I'm not particularly insecure about that, although to be fair, as someone who's chronically skinny, why would I? It's very easy for someone who's never had weight problems to say, oh, I don't care about weight. In the same way that it's easy for naturally attractive people to say, I don't care about makeup. Of course you don't care about makeup because you're flawless as is. Do you know what I mean? And, whereas people who have some kind of feature that makes them insecure, of course they're going to worry about it. It's human nature. I know we've come a long way with body positivity, but there's a point where it's just lying to yourself or lying to society, and people can say that they're okay with things, but actually still feel insecure. So yeah, all that kind of disclaimer aside, yeah, I've never particularly worried about my weight, but what worried me about this, trying on those pants, is I have an entire wardrobe of stuff designed for me in that, around 50 kilo range. I've actually also got stuff that suited me when I was down at that 47 kilo range that I can no longer fit, one of which I have been gradually working on trying to figure out how I'm going to alter it to fit me now. But then, the whole thing with my dog, that kind of derailed all that. So I haven't got back onto that yet, but I do have plans. There's one item I have that doesn't have built-in adjustability that I really need to alter from that time. But otherwise, most of the stuff that I've got suits me between that 50 to 52 kilo range. But when I was getting up to 53 and 54, I was noticing things were starting to get uncomfortably tight. And that's what started to annoy me, is not oh, how do I look and blah, blah, blah. It was no, I have this huge wardrobe of stuff that I've barely gotten to wear and would cost me a lot of money to replace if I did put on a significant amount of weight. And so that's what got me concerned about my weight, was the wardrobe, the economics of it, the feeling of wasting old clothes. And so, yeah, when that happened, I stopped snacking at night. And I also did happen to stumble on some articles. I don't think I sought them out on purpose. I think it's just like, Google shows you like random news stories, and I came across one that happened to be about weight. Or maybe I went from there and clicked a few things and ended up to time restricted eating. So it's not intermittent fasting where you eat whatever you want for 5 days and fast for 2 days. No, that's unhealthy for you. That confuses your metabolism. It's more like trying to mimic how we were in the wild pre-civilization or whatever is, you'd be able to go out and do your hunting and gathering during the day, but then at night you'd be more worried about sleeping, but also keeping the camp secure and not getting attacked by wolves or whatever. So it's basically like you only eat during a certain number of hours during the day, and then the rest of the time you don't eat. And that actually did work for me. May not work for everyone, but yeah, not snacking at night. Like I would have dinner, maybe have dessert, but then after, say, 8 p.m., wouldn't eat anything. And considering that most days I wouldn't get out of bed and have breakfast until 10 a.m. or, maybe even later some days, that's actually a smaller window than what they recommend for this method of, not putting on weight. So I don't know, maybe I did it a little bit too far and it was a little bit too unhealthy, but whatever, it worked for me and I started to get back down to that 52 kilo area. And I was like, okay, great. So I'll keep doing that. I also started doing some exercises that I randomly came across. I was like, ABC Sydney, I think, I was following on Facebook, and they came up with this lady who was doing these exercises to I don't know if it was like tone your bum or something, but I was like, well, the bum area is where I'm having trouble with clothes, because like the upper half of me, I'm a female, right? The upper half of me doesn't change that much. With females, the fat tends to go to your thighs, and so it was pants where I was noticing the most problem fitting in. And so I started doing like this exercise. I can show you quickly. It's like you got to hold on to something so you don't fall over. I didn't really plan very well, but you try and find like around there, you can sort of feel where it's going to tighten when you do this, and you do like your leg like that and do like 10 of them on each side. And so I started doing them every night. I'm still doing them because it's a different exercise, a bit unusual, very easy to do. So I'm like, okay, fine. Now that's getting a little bit weird because I don't really care about how my bum looks, but I was like, maybe it'll help me fit into these pants. So this is where I'm like, my brain's starting to get a little bit into that territory of things that I was like never concerned with, and the sort of superstitious way that females in particular try and change their bodies. So I admit that is a thing that happened. And so that was going okay, and I think this sort of also links into some of the weird makeup stuff, but I'll talk about that, I think, in another video. Anyway, so yeah, that's what got me concerned about putting on too much weight. But then, with Hope losing my dog, and the absolute stress involved in that, actually things have gone the other way now. Because first of all, dealing with this whole crisis, really I was so stressed and so worried about him that I wasn't eating very well. And then when it was all over, the grief also, there were a few days where I really struggled to eat anything at all. And then since then, I have good days and bad days, but overall, my appetite has just gone down a lot. And then there are some days where I'm not able to eat very well. Mostly I'm trying to eat breakfast. I always have the same breakfast just to make sure I actually eat, because, I do have that historical issue with low weight. So, I just always have toast in the morning. Sometimes it'll be peanut butter. Sometimes it'll be Vegemite with a bit of cheese. But yeah, always toast. Then I don't have to think about it because, yeah, with my appetite, if I'm looking for food and I can't decide what to eat and nothing looks like food, and then I start stressing about it, that kills my appetite too. So first thing in the morning, I just have to have a default food, otherwise I may not eat. Occasionally, if there's something really nice left over from the day before, I might have that for breakfast, but mostly I just have the toast. Don't think about it, just eat something. But even with that strategy, there have been some days where I've just been like, you know what, I don't feel like I can eat, so I just have my cup of tea, which is really bad because you need to have breakfast to start up the energy. And also, if you are trying to lose weight, skipping meals is a bad idea because, you got to think about it as if you're trying to build a fire, right? If you only had one meal a day, and it's kind of like just trying to start a fire with a big log. Whereas if you have small meals throughout the day, it's more like you're putting the kindling in and you actually keep the fire going. Whereas if you just put a big log in there, you don't really get the fire happening at all. You need to keep putting little bits, small bits. Not like huge snacks all day, just like at least start the fire properly. Then you can put your bigger log on later and it'll burn. And, you know, it's like if that burning represents the fat not sticking to you and all that. Anyway, whatever. Take my advice with a grain of salt because I've naturally been small my whole life. So I could be talking shit. I'm not a scientist or anything, but that's sort of how I understand the basic theory of it. Anyway, no, and like, you know, so for some people, you got to have breakfast to get your metabolism going. For me, got to have breakfast to get the energy going. And, you know, if I don't eat for a while, if I forget to eat sometimes, I start getting headaches and whatever. But yeah, and then there's some days, okay, I will have the breakfast, but then I'll forget about lunch or not have lunch or have lunch really late, which then impacts whether or not I want to eat dinner. There have been some days with the grief where I've just not felt like eating lunch and have skipped it. And then there's like yesterday where I didn't want to eat breakfast, but I was awake. So I got up and I went out into the shopping center. But on the way there, I stopped off for Macca's breakfast. But I think they put regular milk in my hot chocolate, even though I paid for lactose-free milk. So then I felt really crap afterwards and crap, that's an unintended pun, but okay, brain, that's where we're gonna go. I had to run for the bathroom twice in the hours following. Was pretty bad. So then I didn't eat lunch just because I felt bad. So that one's not my fault. I had plans to go and have Nando's. I just couldn't do it after that. But yeah, other days I will just forget or I'll get busy with something. The other thing is because I wake up so late, you know, like I have breakfast only a few hours before when most people are having lunch anyway, and I'm not hungry enough then. So lifestyle issues, whatever. Anyway, point being, and like with dinner, I've also noticed I'm tending to eat less. Like I will have dinner, but I'm having smaller portions and not going back for more and just struggling to get through the same amount of food that I was previously. So my weight I've actually been struggling. Like I'm now more consistently hovering around the 50 kilo area, and I have been below 50 kilos. Now, it doesn't help that we got some new scales because they're trying to keep tabs on Mikey's weight, and these new scales are actually showing me as lighter than the old scales upstairs. So my last trip to my doctor, I tried her scales and they said I was like 50 exactly. Then when I got home, I immediately tried myself on both scales. So on the old upstairs one, it's showing me as 0.4 over what the doctor's scale said, and then the new one downstairs is showing me as 1 kilo under what that's saying. So when I've been trying it, yeah, there have been days where I've gone down to 49. And so now I'm concerned about the opposite. And I think my general challenge in life is maintaining a consistent, healthy weight. I think like I could afford to go higher because I am on the low end of healthy most of the time. But again, the wardrobe. And if, like, I know it's one of these sort of petty, superficial, materialistic kinds of things to be concerned about. But I have also realized in recent times that dressing up how you like and, you know, all this kind of thing, it actually is valuable to mental health to some extent, because like if you dress to be going out somewhere and be doing things and making something of your life, you actually feel like you're going to do that more. Whereas if you dress lazy, like I am today, you're kind of setting yourself up to have a lazy day. So, I mean, probably doesn't work for everyone, but it works for me. If I dress up, I'm much more likely to get out there and do something, even if it's short, even if all I do is go for a walk. Like, that's a huge achievement for me today. Until yesterday, I hadn't been out of the house for like a whole week, maybe 8 days, because, you know, without having a dog anymore, I just don't have an incentive to go for a walk, and I don't have a reminder to go for a walk, and, you know, I don't like walking, I don't enjoy exercise, so I needed that as a reason. So yeah, any day I leave the house is kind of a massive achievement, especially right now. Because yeah, previously I wouldn't leave the house except to go for a walk, but at least I went for the walk, Whereas now, I mean, it doesn't help that the weather in Sydney is really gross and humid. Not necessarily hot, but humid. It's awful. But you know, like I could just go on the exercise bike. Why am I not doing that? Because I hate exercise. I need incentives. So yeah, if I go out and do retail therapy, okay, maybe retail therapy is not the most sustainable form of therapy, but at least I'm out of the house. And I did so much walking yesterday. I didn't actually check how many steps that I did, but I'm sure I can look that up, and it'll be much more than any other day in the past week. So, you know, that stuff's important. So yeah, maybe it's not the most logical thing to worry about this wardrobe, but it does have relevance for my mental health. So yeah, I don't want to put on too much weight, but I also don't want to lose too much. And so how do I maintain a consistent, healthy weight? Because if I lose too much, the other problem I have is I've got low blood pressure. If I lose too much weight, I notice those problems a lot more, especially like the standing up too fast. Now, some of that is I need to make sure I drink more water. I think sometimes when I've been doing the makeup stuff, like with lipstick in particular, because my lips feel weird, I'm less inclined to drink. So I've got to like really get on top of that. But also haven't been doing as much singing practice. And when I don't do singing practice, I don't drink as much, because when you're singing, like the feeling in my throat, that actually prompts me to drink more. Like it's part of the habit of singing. Whereas if I'm not singing, that habit just doesn't kick in. So like there's a lot of different things there. But yeah, when I have put on more weight, I've noticed my blood pressure seems to be like, have less of those issues where I feel faint and all that. And also if you're not eating enough and you're not getting enough iron, that makes you feel faint too. So there's a lot of things. And then yesterday, I definitely noticed, I mean, okay, I didn't get enough sleep yesterday. But I also, because I skipped lunch, all I had was like some cha time, some tea. And then when I came home, I was feeling pretty off. But when I had dinner, finally ate at dinner, like, you know, I had my McDonald's and then probably pooped it all out, so I didn't even probably get much nutrition from it. So yeah, I was running on like basic reserves, not even enough sleep to get me through. So I was starting to get a headache by the end of the day. But then I had dinner, and I noticed after dinner I did feel a little bit off still, but it started, like, you know, my body started to come back and I was starting to feel healthier, and the headache was nowhere near as bad as it had been. So, you know, it's difficult. And another thing, I don't want to lose too much weight, is that when I turn up somewhere and someone notices how skinny I am, or how skinny I can get and how skinny I've been in the past, that's when people start questioning me. Oh, are you eating enough? As if like I'm doing it on purpose. In the past, I wasn't like, you know, paying this much attention to my weight, whereas now I have been. But yeah, people would ask, oh, are you eating enough? And I didn't, like, I probably wasn't, but I didn't think about that because it wasn't intentional. And so I was always puzzled and annoyed by people like implying that I had anorexia or something, because it was just constantly like, I think they were probing me for body image issues, which, I mean, I have some issues with my body, but they're not the standard ones that your average person would have, or like your stereotypical female would have. Like, my issues with body image is like, why do I even have to be human? Why do I have to be like this noodly armed thing? Why is my body not strong enough being a female? You know, I've always been jealous of the male strength, for example, but also more like Dragon Ball Z, like flying off into the, why can't my body fly off into the sky? Like, those are my body image issues, the sort of unrealistic things that I can't change, that are very much rooted in fantasy. Maybe that's a bit of like, you know, the schizoid fantasy thing as well. Like, every now and then I think of something to do with fantasy that I haven't thought about for a long time, because I've avoided a lot of fiction over the past few years, because it just makes me feel so shit about the real world comparing those different worlds. But yeah, when I think about the things that I used to fixate on, then I'm like, oh shit, is that maybe that was a schizoid thing. Anyway, yeah. But that's just like a summary, I guess, of the past few months of where my weight is at. Like, I did start to put on weight beyond what I wanted, and I resolved that. But now I've gone too far the other way, and I think, so last night I did do some snacking. It's gonna take me a few, you know, you can't just snack one day and then see a result. So I've got to see how that actually, whether that helps. But also, like, right now, I should be having lunch about now, but I actually don't feel like it. I mean, humidity also doesn't make me want to eat, but I'm so tired from having left the house yesterday, and I just don't feel like eating. I know I should eat, but I don't feel like it. And if I don't feel like eating, if I don't have an appetite, it's actually very hard to force myself to eat something. I can try and find, like, I think there's some grapes in the fridge. They're pretty easy to eat. I could maybe nibble a couple of them. But yeah, I just, like, if I try and eat in this state, I will start to get like that sort of feeling that I want to throw up. And so it's just so unpleasant that I can't psychologically break through it to force myself to eat. I'm not someone who can force feed myself, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's a kind of a tricky thing. And it is weird for me as an experience to realize that I'm giving a shit about my weight at the moment. I think 50 is a sweet spot, or like at least 50 to 52. That was a good weight, and I had that for a few years. But yeah, then the snacking thing. I think I was also, because I was so stressed last year, I spent a lot of time at home again, and I don't know, I am getting old as well, so I'm 35 now. So, 2016, I spent a lot of time in bed, but that was, 2016? That's like 8 years ago, whereas now, so 8 years ago I would have been in my late 20s. Now I'm in my mid 30s, and so my body's metabolism would be slowing down. Apparently not enough to stop me from losing this extra weight, but it is gradually slowing down. Like, I am seeing that difference. Maybe that's why I was finally able to snack and put on the weight. Kind of interesting, like all this biology stuff. Not enough to make me study it properly, but just noticing how my body is changing in that way. And then how do I manage this now with the grief? Because, like, I've had pets die before, but I don't think I've had this much of an issue where I can't eat because I've been so sad, and like it'll hit me at random times. I'll be okay for a bit, and then, I might have a dream about him like I did a few days back that set off this really, like, I had a good 3 days or so where I was crying a lot. Oh, I'm getting a parcel. I was so sad. I wasn't going to buy this, Mecca thing. Like, they're like, oh, if you spend $75 on this particular range, we'll send you this freebie box of samples or whatever. I wasn't going to do it, but then, yeah, because there were like 3 days where, there were a couple days, and then like the cleaning day in between was okay, but when I stopped cleaning, then I started to get upset, and then like, just not being able to stop crying for a few days there, either side of that, because I was so upset. I was like, I've got the app and it sent me a notification, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go and buy it because maybe it'll cheer me up. Anyway, so that's that. But yeah, no, the grief, this is probably the worst grief that I've had in my life, maybe because that's the strongest connection I've ever had with another being. Yeah, and so I'm a little bit surprised the impact that it had on my weight, because I know when some people experience grief, they actually eat more because food can be comforting, but I guess that's just not how I am. It's like if things are destabilized in my life, I'm more inclined to lose my appetite. And that's not something I planned for when I stopped snacking and started trying to lose that excess weight that I had, trying to get back into my wardrobe. Like, I could still fit the wardrobe, but I was sort of like, oh, if I put on any more weight, I will not be able to wear this, and it was already getting uncomfortable. But yeah, I didn't plan for, I really thought that Hope was going to be around for longer. I had literally just received an order of extra food and stuff, and probiotics. I had I had a huge number of supplies. I've since donated them to a rescue shelter. He came from a rescue shelter, so it's sort of like giving back into that system, which is nice in a way. But yeah, I really thought he was so healthy. He seemed so healthy. Yeah, so it was like kind of a shock, I think, to have all that go down. And yeah, I just didn't plan for anything that big to happen in my life. Like, last year was so bad, and it was just starting to get a little bit better because I'd sorted out a few things in my life. Things were starting to get better, got access to my studio again, sorted out some shit with Centrelink, so they stopped harassing me. Yeah, just got rid of a lot of stresses, and then, things were starting to get better, and yeah, like, my life was on an upward trajectory, so I didn't account for the fact that it would just hit rock bottom all of a sudden again, and now I'm in this situation where I'm losing too much weight. and it's concerning, and I'm aware of it, and I'm trying to fix it, but there's only so much I can do. Like today, I think my brain is a little bit more on top of things, like controlling things. And, I can think about how I've struggled. There are a few days where I just could not do anything. And to be honest, it was so bad that I looked up, like I was so upset and so depressed that I actually looked up how long it would take to die of starvation. Then I saw it sounds like a terrible way to go. So I thought, okay, I'll eat a piece of bread. But I thought about intentionally starving myself so that I wouldn't be here anymore. Like, that's how bad things have gotten. But on those days, because I was like, the emotions were so strong that I couldn't use my logic to see through it properly. And today I'm like, okay, I'll film a vlog because my parents are out, and then maybe I'll go and do some art in the studio, or maybe I'll try some more lipstick stuff, and I will do stuff and try and make life better. But in the earlier part of this week, it was not like that at all. I was like, oh my God, everything is horrible. This is going to go on forever. When can I get off the ride? I'm so done with living and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's all I could think about. Even knowing that episode wouldn't last. Even knowing maybe tomorrow I'll wake up better, or maybe the next day I'll wake up better. Like, even knowing that emotions are a temporary state, I wasn't able to break through that. And so the same thing with this whole weight stuff. If my appetite is really that fucked and it gets to my brain, like it takes control of my brain, I won't be able to force myself to eat. So it's like this whole fight with, you've got your logic and you can do all the CBT therapy, blah, blah, kind of, this is how I'm going to take control of my life shit. But that can so easily be overridden by the emotional stuff where you just don't have control of it anymore. And yeah, I'm concerned about that because I do have those days where I'm just not in control of what I'm doing. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit of a scary thing to think about. And like, this is what mental illness is, I think, is just like, I am not in control when this stuff happens. And it's a real challenge to my sense of self, as if I needed any more challenges to my sense of self. It's just like the way that I can shift between perspectives like that and not feel like I have control over it. It's concerning. And so today, while I seem to be doing okay, like I am pretty tired because I was out yesterday and leaving the house is a lot, and then walking so much. Oh boy, and concentrating on things for so long. I'm pretty tired, but I'm managing to hold a bit more of a positive perspective. But that may not be the case tomorrow. I think tomorrow should be okay because I am going to psychology, and then I'm thinking if I have the energy of going to the art shop, since I forgot to do that yesterday. And I might say hello to my friend, or maybe I'll just take another stalkerish photo of him because we only chat online, and so I know where he works now. And I just I've got my 10 times zoom, took a photo from the distance because I was in his vicinity. And then I thought I could go in and say hi, but then what would I don't know, I didn't have anything else to say. So I thought, you know what, I'll just send him this photo. It'll be heaps funny. And he gets that sense of humor. So that was fine. I don't seem like too much of an actual stalker. It's part of the sense of humor. But anyway, I could go and harass him again. But it depends on how I feel and whether I feel up to that, because what if he spots me? Then I can't escape. I don't know how long that game will go for. But yeah, I think days where I have something concrete planned, I do better. So tomorrow, I have to get up at a certain time to be able to go to my psychology appointment. And then since I'm out anyway, as long as I'm not heaps tired or headachy or ill, I should stay out, go to the art shop, maybe stalk my friend, and then that'll make it for a better day. What did my ear just do? Holy shit. But actually Saturday, I think I'll be okay because my godmother might hang out with me and we'll go somewhere. So maybe not in the morning, but in the afternoon, I'll at least have to get myself reasonably decent. Then Sunday will be cleaning day, but then Monday, I don't currently have any plans. So that could be a bad day because I could just, I would have no reason to get out of bed because I don't have a dog telling me to get up. I don't know. I need to come up with something. Like, I could tell myself, get up, make a YouTube video, or get up, play a video game and stream it, or get up, do some music, get up, do some art, whatever. I can tell myself that, But until the day comes, like, if there's nothing concrete, set in stone, that involves the rest of the world or other people or, you know, something that I have to do, if I don't have that, I'll be inclined to just stay in bed and have a shit day. And yeah, it's hard because goal setting just doesn't work. It's not convincing enough for the way that my brain works. Anyway, so yeah, eating, weight, mental health stuff, bit of a ramble, but that's where I'm at with all those kinds of things. And yes, I admit I have finally found reasons to think about my weight after so many years. And it's been a roller coaster because, yeah, now I need to figure out how do I hit Goldilocks weight. I think losing weight is a lot easier for me than putting on weight though. So next time I get to that higher level of weight, maybe, I don't know. It's gonna take, like, it took me so long to get up to 50 kilos as it is. So that's another thing. I'm a little bit disappointed that I've dropped below 50 because I really thought I had stabilized it, and it really took so long to hit that point. So yeah, maybe I should do the opposite of how I lost the weight when I put on too much. Maybe I should do more snacking, just try to do more snacking. But yeah, I'm not good at it because I also don't like a lot of sweet food too much, and I don't like a lot of salty. Like, my body tends to tell me what's healthy. So I tend not to gravitate to the really unhealthy food because I actually feel ill. I think those are like some of my sensitivities. I actually feel ill if I eat some of that stuff. So that makes things a little bit harder, but I should just snack on, like, even if I just eat a piece of bread like I did when I decided I wouldn't starve myself to death. Yeah, even if I just ate a little piece of bread or, you know, just one grape, that's better than nothing, right? I don't know, I have weird problems there. And I know it's the opposite to what a lot of the world is concerned about, or the Western world is concerned about. Most of the Western world wants to lose weight, but being too underweight is unhealthy as well. You know, there's a healthy range, and that's my goal. Bye.